everybody, wherever you are in the world, and a very warm welcome to this BSI webinar. I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this event. I'm sure that you'll find it useful and informative, and I believe that we will too. My name's Rob Hine, and I'm the Global Head of Market Engagement at BSI, and I will be your host for today's webinar. I just want to say it's really great to see how strong level of interest in digital twins and this standard ISO IEC 30186, covering the maturity model and guidance for maturity assessment. I think this level of engagement tells us something important straight away. Like, while digital twins are no longer a hypothetical concept, there is still a very real question around consistency, trust, and value in how they're defined, implemented, and assured. And that's really what today is about. Over the next hour, we want to try to do three things. Firstly, we're going to take a deeper look at the ISO standard. What is it? What problem is it trying to solve? And how is it trying to help bring clarity and alignment to a space that can sometimes feel a little bit fragmented or even overhyped? And secondly, we want to hear from you. During the course of this webinar, we'll be running some polls to get a sense of your thinking about digital twins. Like, where do you see value? Where do you see risk? Where are you feeling confidence or perhaps uncertainty? And we'll come back to those views because assurance only really works when it reflects real world needs. So, time permitting, we're also going to be running a Q&A at the end of the session. I'm pretty confident we'll have time to do that. And I would encourage you to drop any questions that you might have into the chat as we go, and I can direct them to our experts later on. And to do that, if you can have a look at your screen in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a small box with a question mark in. Just click on that, and that will enable you to type your questions in as we go along. Lastly, as I've alluded, we want to explore what assurance might look like in this space, and specifically, what would it mean to have a Kitemark that's aligned to ISO 30186? What problem would that solve, and what tangible value would it provide for organizations, markets, specifiers, or regulators? So I think it's fair to say that currently digital twins sits at an interesting intersection. They combine data, they combine models, systems, behaviors, and increasingly, like, decisions with real-world consequences. But as adoption starts to grow, so does questions around confidence. Is confidence in digital twin what it claims to be? Is there confidence around its interoperability? Confidence that it has been built and governed in a way that others can trust? Of course, that's where standards play a really powerful role, and ISO 30186 is an important step because it shares a foundation of how digital twins are described and better understood. But standards on their own don't automatically translate into trust within the market. So that usually comes when organizations can demonstrate alignment in a way that is both independent and credible, and also easy to recognize. To help us with the ground these discussions today, we're really pleased to be joined by Dr. Rebecca Lutton, Head of Technology Adoption from UK Centre for Digital Twins. She's going to be on to explain their role within Digital Catapult, and she'll give an overview of their technical assessment tool and how it helps to accelerate digital twin adoption. I think her contribution really helped to anchor the conversation in practical use cases and emerging practice. Today, you'll also hear from my colleague Cheki Ergin-Bash, one of our certification technical experts, and he's going to be looking really closely at ISO 30186, how it was developed, what it's aiming to do, how it fits within the broader standards landscape. And you're probably aware that there's a number of other standards for digital twins that are already under development. Before we move into the main content, you'll hear a recorded introduction from my colleague Andy Butterfield. He's the Managing Director for Built Environment at BSI, and he's briefly going to set out BSI's role and our focus on convening communities to create trusted solutions through wider stakeholder engagement, much as we're doing today. As we go through the sessions, I'd really encourage you to try and stay engaged, particularly with some poll questions that we're going to be running between each of the presentations. Your views today are going to directly shape what happens next in our digital twin journey. After the webinar, you're going to receive a link with access to the recording and the slides, and that will come from GoToWebinar, the platform we're using today, and you get that within about 48 hours. So please take a look out for that email. So With that, thank you in advance for your engagement and valuable feedback. Let's get started by hearing from Andy.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on digital twins. We are delighted that so many of you have joined us today. Firstly, to introduce myself, I am Andy Butterfield, Managing Director of the Built Environment sector here at BSI. And my role involves working to support our clients and our stakeholders globally. Having led on BIM over the past decade, I'm very passionate about the progress we can achieve through data and digital twins. So before we get into the main topic, let me quickly introduce BSI. We're proud to be the world's first national standards body. Established back in 1901, we are actually celebrating 125 years of helping to create impact for a fair society and a sustainable world this year, maintaining our focus upon our purpose throughout our history. 2026 is also the year that I personally celebrate, having spent 30 of my own years at BSI. So a rather scary thought that I have been here for almost 25% of BSI's entire history. What makes us unique is how we do what we do, through services that shape standards and drive best practice. And this is exactly what we are aspiring to achieve with your support today, with respect to the use of data and digital twins. As the UK's national standards body, we operate under a royal charter which guarantees our independence. Every penny of profit is reinvested to keep delivering on our purpose, helping businesses and society thrive together and accelerating progress through partnership. Across our organisation, we are focused upon supporting stakeholders in 4 key domains: sustainability, digital trust, health, safety and well-being, and quality, enabling us to create positive impact for a future built environment. The importance of data and digital technology cannot be overstated, and within the digital transformation of our sector lies the very foundation for driving better outcomes and progress. Now, key to how we work is our convening model, bringing together industry experts to share challenges, insights, and experience to help us shape solutions which create value for all, not just for organisations, but also for their people. This process of co-creation enables us to work together, pioneering innovation and helping to drive progress to address the biggest challenges we face. It is with this in mind that we are hosting this webinar today, to focus together to consider one of the biggest challenges we face in the sector: technology integration across the entire asset life cycle. Today, we have incredible tools: BIM, digital twins, and now AI. But all too often, they're used in isolation. Each one delivers value, but when they don't connect, we risk creating digital silos. True transformation requires end-to-end integration, from design through to construction and into asset management and operation. If these systems don't talk to each other, we lose the opportunity for efficiency, insight, and collaboration. This is one of the biggest challenges ahead, making sure that technology works together seamlessly to deliver real outcomes. So please enjoy this webinar, and most importantly, please engage and share your thoughts and views through the chat and the surveys. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. We very much hope you enjoy this webinar.
Thank you, Andy. I know he very much wanted to be here today with us, but unfortunately, well, fortunately actually, he's going to be attending an event in London with some of our clients and key stakeholders, both celebrating our 125th anniversary, but more importantly, he's going to hear from them about some of the systemic issues that they're facing today. And in that spirit, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Natalie now, who's going to introduce our first poll for the session. Over to you, Natalie.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. Okay, so first poll. What is the primary problem digital twins are currently being used to address in your context? So a couple of options there for you. So asset performance, monitoring or optimization, risk, safety or operational resilience, planning, design or decision making, or lastly, sustainability, efficiency or lifecycle management. All right, I'll give you a couple of seconds there just to cast your votes. Okay, I think the majority of you have now voted, so I'll just read those results out. So we have a clear winner, so that is the first one. So asset performance monitoring or optimization, we have 57%. No one has voted for risk, safety or operational resilience. We have 30% who have voted for planning, design or decision making, and 13% have said sustainability, efficiency or lifecycle management. So back to you then, Rob.
Thank you very much indeed, Natalie, and thank you all for participating in that poll. That was really interesting. We're going to be taking some time to look at these results as we go forward, and we'll share some feedback with you all about our sort of thoughts on that as we go forward. But yeah, once again, just thank you very much for taking the time to answer that today. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Checky. He's going to be talking you through ISO IEC 30186, covering the maturity models and assessment. Where did it come from? What does it do? How does it do it? And where does it sit in the standards landscape? So Checky, over to you.
Thank you, Rob. Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie Ergenbash. I'm a certification technical expert at BSI's Digital Lifecycle and Performance team. As Rob said, today I'll be talking about ISO IEC 30186 in a little bit more detail. However, before going into that, I want to start by talking about the digital twin standards development landscape and where this standard fits in the grand scheme of things. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 lanes of standards development. On the left side, first we have ISO TC 184, Industrial Automation Systems and Integration Group. This committee published ISO 23247 series of standards back in 2021. These standards are technically coherent standards. However, they focus exclusively on the use of digital twins in the manufacturing sector. On the right-hand side, we have SAN TC 442, Building Information Modeling Committee. This is the committee that develops the ISO 19650 BIM standards. Now, they started working on a series of built environment-specific digital twin standards. The first in the series is BSEN 18162, which was published earlier this year, and it introduced some new concepts and definitions. However, it still doesn't have the detail we need, which is going to come in the following standards in this series. Perhaps of the 3, the most active one in this field, I would say, is ISO IEC JTC1 SC41, which is the IoT and Digital Twin Committee. And this group have been developing a whole family of cross-sector, sector-agnostic digital twin standards. They've so far published 3, and then we know that they are also working on 8 more in this series. The first 2 of these covered things like concepts, terminology, and vocabulary. However, the third one, which is the focus of our conversation today, is ISO IEC 30186, was published last year and introduced a new maturity model. In our opinion, this standard basically introduced the first sector agnostic standard that an assurance solution can be built around. If we now look into the detail of what ISO IEC 30186 is and what it isn't. First of all, the full title of the standard is Digital Twin maturity model and guidance for a maturity assessment. It defines a generic digital twin maturity model along with indicators and guidance for assessing maturity. So what's in scope? It describes the maturity model. It is sector agnostic. It introduces new assessment indicators, and it also provides you guidance on how to carry out this assessment. What is not included in this standard, it does not prescribe a digital twin architecture. It does not mandate specific data models or tools. It does not introduce any product-specific technical requirements. Basically, this is not the standard that tells you. So this standard doesn't tell you how to build a digital twin. It purely focuses on assessing how mature a digital twin's capabilities are in a consistent and sector-neutral way. Now, the maturity itself is defined in a multidimensional concept, which is summarized in this table, in this graph. The standard introduces 5 maturity aspects under which the maturity is assessed. These are the convergence, capability, integrated view, time, and trustworthiness aspects. And for each of these aspects, there are 5 levels of maturity defined in detail with objective criteria describing how to achieve these individual levels. So from that perspective, we believe it is quite strong in developing an objective framework for the assessment of maturity. Now, the standard also describes a methodology, an assessment method on assessing the maturity. So this is done through a series of yes/no type assessment questions for each of the levels of each aspect. Just so you can have some kind of idea what these questions look like, I just put some examples. So in the screen, you see the capability aspect, maturity level 2 and 3 questions. So if I read one, for example, at level 2, you have questions such as, does the digital twin facilitate reactive operations with target entity by providing insights based on monitored data requiring human intervention? That's level 2. When you go to level 3, you have questions like, does a digital twin use data or simulation tools to predict the behavior of the target entity? So to achieve a level, you need to be able to answer yes to all of the questions in that specific level, but also to the questions that are on the levels below that level. So in that respect, this is a cumulative scoring system. And the important thing about the system is that there is no collapsed single score. You have separate scores for separate aspects. In fact, the standard specifically prohibits you from collapsing because the whole point of the standard is to see the capability, the maturity in these different areas rather than trying to achieve a perfect score or anything like that. Just want to reiterate, not every digital twin needs to have a 5 out of 5 of every aspect. It totally depends on the use case and the benefits that you're trying to get from implementing that specific digital twin. Now I'm going to go through a quick overview of individual aspects so you can have a better idea. So first we have the convergence aspect, which looks at the relationship between the physical entity and the digital twin. At level 1, we have basically a static model with no data connections. At level 2, we have paired, which introduces a one-way data connection between the physical entity and the digital twin. At level 3, we have synchronized, which is the traditional two-way data connection. At level 4, we have multiple digital twins working in a coordinated manner. And at level 5, we have multiple digital twins unified into a single system of systems. Now, one of the strengths of this standard, in my opinion, is that it kind of moves away from that all or nothing approach in defining what a true digital twin is. And this is most obvious from this convergence aspect, where I'm aware we had these discussions in the past about what is a true digital twin, what is a digital shadow, what is just a model. This standard basically acknowledges 2 things. 1, digital twins can start as static models and then evolve over time. But also, there are other aspects where you can get benefit from a digital twin other than just the two-way connection. And there are many legitimate use cases for digital twins, even with one-way data connection, which is acknowledged. So the standard purely focuses on objectively identifying where the capability sits in a maturity scale without excluding projects earlier in their development journey or have other use cases. When we go into the capability aspect, this aspect focuses on what the digital twin can actually do. At level 1 mirroring, we have just a static descriptive model. At level 2 monitoring, we go into condition monitoring and diagnosis. At level 3 predictive, the digital twins now have some predictive simulation capabilities. At level 4 federated, we are getting into federated predictive operations. And at level 5 autonomous, we are looking into a digital twin with autonomous optimization and control capabilities. If you go into the integrated view aspect, this aspect looks into users and collaboration across the enterprise, across different streams of a business. At level 1, we have task specific, basically a digital twin that focuses on a single task. At level 2, our digital twin can connect to other systems or digital twins. However, they are still within the same single discipline. At level 3 preventative, we are getting into a cross-discipline collaboration now, where the digital twin can start carrying out life cycle-wide predictive analysis. At level 4, we are getting into the use of augmented high-quality data to help answer enterprise-wide questions and decision support. And at level 5, we are looking at a digital twin with supervising cross-domain coordination capabilities. The time aspect assesses how time information is managed. At level 1, we have a very basic unlinked twin with no standardized time reference. At level 2, we go into timestamp sequencing. At level 3, parameterized, we now have a time-based simulation and review capability, so you can go forwards and backwards in time to simulate certain scenarios. At level 4, we have multiple digital twins sharing the exact same time standard. And at level 5, we have multiple digital twins and systems integrated into one to be able to carry out time-driven autonomous operations. And finally, we have the trustworthiness aspect, which covers security, data accuracy, reliability, and compliance across the digital twin lifecycle. At level 1 integral, we just have a basic level of data integrity. At level 2 secured, we are introducing a little bit more requirements for secure data transmission. At level 3 reliable standard introduces more requirements in terms of reliable and auditable operations. At level 4 validated, the digital twin starts gaining automated data validation and real-time error correction capabilities. And for a level 5 trusted digital twin, we're looking at a self-healing digital twin with predictive security and compliance capabilities. Now, if you want to learn more about these, obviously, I would highly recommend download and read the standard. And just to sum it up, this is the last slide. Why ISO IEC 30186 matters, in our opinion. Now, we believe this standard introduces an objective way of understanding where the digital twin maturity lies in different areas. It is sector agnostic, therefore you can apply it anywhere from built environment into healthcare, into manufacturing if you want to. It is not trying to gatekeep the term digital twin just based on connectivity. It is inclusive of early and advanced implementations. It also recognizes the benefits of different levels of maturity in different levels. Because of the way the maturity is structured, it provides a clear roadmap for development and improvement for those digital twins that can benefit from it. And we believe it also provides a strong basis for benchmarking because it has objective assessment criteria, especially if this criteria is implemented consistently, specifically by an independent assessor. And we believe this also supports digital twin specification. It can support, for example, let's say you are a specifier who only wants a twin with two-way data connection. You can say, I only want convergence level 3 digital twins. And finally, we believe this standard provides a credible foundation for building future assurance solutions, especially considering the other standards coming in this family in the future. On that note, I'm going to hand it back over to Rob. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Czeki. Before you jump off, that was a really clear overview of the standard, and really appreciate that. I've got a quick question for you, a quick follow-up question before we move on. I wonder if you could expand a little bit about the real value in moving away from that all or nothing approach, so it's either compliant or it's not, and looking at this as a maturity matrix.
So, okay, that's a good question.
Put you on the spot there.
No, it's okay. So I know that there's been a lot of discussions in this area about, in the UK especially, we had the digital twin framework, UK digital twin framework, where we introduced things like what is just a model, what is just a shadow, what is just a digital, what's a full digital two-way data connections. Now, this standard also references a preceding standard, ISO 30173, which still describes a digital twin as a digital representation of a target entity with data connections that enable convergence between physical and digital states. However, if I have the standard in the background, just in case I have some questions. The standard also says in 5.1, there's a note which says the definition of the digital twin in the previous standard focused only on the level 3 of convergence aspect. However, a digital twin has more features and characteristics beyond the convergence between the physical and digital states. This document extends the features and characteristics of a digital twin beyond those in the previous standard in terms of a maturity assessment. And this is most obvious in the type of twins, such as the ones you use for, let's say, monitoring of an asset, and that could be like a natural asset. One example comes to mind I've seen in the Digital Twin Hub. There was this digital twin of a coastal area in the UK where they have landslides and erosion problems, and they have villages. So what they built a twin where they can monitor with incoming data, with more survey data and sensor data. They are always updating the coastal map of the region. And every time there's a new data, there's a simulation running in the background in predicting if a critical threshold has been passed, so they can intervene to evacuate the buildings, etc. So in that case, you don't have the two-way data connection, but you still have a very legitimate use case. So I guess the point is, it all depends what your use case is, what you want to get out of digital twin, and this standard enables that by focusing on different areas, not just two-way data connection.
Brilliant. Thank you, Checky. Fascinating application for digital twins there with coastal erosion. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Sorry to put you on the spot there. I'm sure there'll be some more interesting questions coming through from our audience today. As far as I can see, we have not had any questions yet. So have a think and start putting those into the box there with a little question mark in the top right of the screen. We'd love to hear your thoughts and find out what you'd like to know more about today. Okay, on that note, then I'm going to say thanks very much, Checky. I'm going to hand back to Natalie. We're going to run the second poll of today, and this poll really focuses on like how aware are you or were you of that particular standard. So thank you, Natalie.
No worries at all, Rob. Okay, so you can see there on the screen. The second poll is, before today, how familiar were you with ISO 30186 Digital Twins Framework and Requirements? So we've got 1, I hadn't heard of it before today. 2, I've heard of it but don't know the detail. 3, I'm familiar with it and have reviewed it. Or 4, we are already aligning to or using it. So a few seconds there just to cast your votes. Let's see, a couple of people are changing their minds here. Right, okay, it was nearly a tiebreaker then. So we have 35% have said, I haven't heard of it before today. The winner is of 39%. I've heard of it, but don't know the detail. 26% have said, I'm familiar with it and have reviewed it. And no one has said, we are already aligning to or using it. So back to you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Natalie. Not surprising that no one's at the moment aligned to and using it. It's a very new standard, but I'm sure that you'll be reviewing that in more detail as we go forward. So thank you very much for that. Really interesting. Now, so it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Rebecca Lutton from the UK Digital Twin Centre. So I'll hand over to you, Rebecca. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I am Head of Technology Adoption for Digital Twins and Distributed Systems at the UK Digital Twin Centre. I'm double checking here because I thought my initial slide was kind of having difficulty changing the slide. Oh, okay. There's a delay in the controls. Apologies. So, Digital Catapult is one of 11 catapults in the UK, and we're funded by Innovate UK. And catapults exist specifically to bridge the gap between research and commercial application. So Digital Catapult's focus is emerging digital technologies, and the UK Digital Twin Centre is one of its flagship programmes. So we accelerate the practical application of deep tech, and this is Digital Catapult's overarching mission statement. And for the UK DGC, so the UK Digital Twin Centre, specifically, this means making digital twins genuinely usable by UK industry, not just theoretically possible. And the key word here is practical. So what is the Digital Twin Centre? For ecosystem-wise, the centre brings together lab facilities, skilled experts, and support for innovation programmes under the one roof. Our co-investment partners, so we're delivered by Digital Catapult from Belfast, and we're funded by a Belfast Region City deal, Innovate UK, and the Northern Ireland Executive, with co-investment from 3 industrial partners. That's Artemis Technologies, Thales, and Short Brothers, Boeing company. So we are able to work in these regulated areas. We have these partners from these regulated areas, and the digital twin maturity and trustworthiness it's not optional. And that context matters for everything I'm about to show you and everything that you're here for today. Financially, we were given a 37.6 million investment from the Belfast Region City deal and industry partners and Innovate UK. And the goal is to increase GVA, so the gross value add in 10 years. That's 36 million across Northern Ireland and 62 million in total. We're to create 230 new jobs in the manufacturing sector specifically, and 104 of those are in Northern Ireland, with creation of an ecosystem, a thriving ecosystem of 100 plus people, companies. This is the big one. So our goal is to reduce the cost of producing a digital twin by 50%. So that means that if we can halve the cost of entry, digital twins stop being this luxury for large primes and become viable for SMEs. So what is our vision and mission? So our working methodology and our mission is 3 words. It's demystify, demonstrate, and deploy. Each phase has a defined set of outputs. So with demystify, we are to create this educational awareness of different digital twin technologies and concepts. We go through all the education. We kind of take the companies on a journey and understand where they are, what they're doing, how we can explain different concepts and terminologies to them. We take them through business readiness assessments, technology readiness assessments, feasibility areas, and at the end, you should have an idea, a map of where you are in your journey and a roadmap of where you need to get to. For demonstrate, this is quite an exciting area, is that you should end up with a validated prototype or pilot, but we provide you with a sandbox, a digital twin sandbox. We provide you with the skilled experts here in the centre and with knowledge across the different hubs across the UK and in the digital catapult hubs. So we exist in London, Bristol and Gateshead as well. You have access to technologies, so hardware and software, tools to be able to build and to test out your theories and proof of concepts. So as I say, at the end, you should have a validated prototype or pilot. And then deploy, that is where we then can work with you and take that and help you embed that solution in your organizational operations. So we partner with ecosystems. We provide the financial structures as well. So we offer accelerator programs, funding mechanisms to help you deploy your digital twin prototypes, and partner with other companies who can help solve problems that you may have. And likewise, funding to help partner with companies where you have the solution. So this is where it gets fun. Let's talk where and how we have turned the standard, so that 30186, into something organizations can actually act on. There we go. So ISO 30186 gives you the, sorry, the slides have changed slightly from, There's definitely a delay in this. So the ISO 30186 gives you 5 independent dimensions and each assessed on a 5-level scale, as you've already heard from Checky. So the radar chart gives you, that you see here, is the output from the assessment if you do this, the maturity assessment. And the important thing is that the 5 axes are independent. So you can't score strongly on capability, and that compensates for a weak score on trustworthiness. And this is by design, and we believe it's the right design. So then how does that map to our readiness assessment? So what we have done is taken those 5 ISO 30186 aspects and translated each one of them into organizational readiness dimensions. So convergence becomes data and connectivity readiness, capability becomes analytics and intelligence readiness, and so on. The ISO standard assesses the twin itself. Our assessment asks whether the organization has the infrastructure, process, and capability to build and operate that twin. These are complementary questions and not competing ones. So this is what a completed readiness assessment looks like. Now, we haven't formalized it and put it on the website yet, but this is the draft and we've used with companies as focus groups. So in this example, the organization scores level 3 on data and connectivity and analytics intelligence, level 4 on temporal and real time, but only level 2 on organizational lifecycle. So that means that the overall score is level 2, because we also use, from the maturity standard, we use that weakest link principle. You're only as ready as your least ready dimension. That level 2 on organizational and lifecycle is the gap we then work with the organization to close through the demonstrate and deploy phase. We also work with them on all the other levels to try and encourage, as long as that's what they're looking for to do, to up those levels to the next level. So the scoring is not binary, the yes, no that you saw in the previous maturity standard and the foundation of our readiness assessment. We decided to change that to 0 to 4. So we go from not considered 0 to in progress 1, implemented 2, and validated 3. So weighted scores translate to the percentage bands which map to the levels, and the overall score is the minimum across all 5 dimensions. This gives organizations a realistic, auditable picture of where they are, so not an optimistic aggregate. We want to identify the gaps and understand some ideas as to, have you thought about it? Okay, what have you thought about it? Or if you haven't even considered it, okay, well, here's the demystify part. So by doing that, we are lowering the barrier to adoption. This assessment is not just diagnostic, it is directional. Every gap it surfaces maps directly to something UK Digital Twin Centre can provide. So that's access to the Digital Twin Sandbox, centralized assets and simulators, expert guidance, the flexible funding I was talking about before, different pathways there. And the assessment tells us where to focus our support and tells the organization exactly what needs to happen before committing to any hardware or budgetary constraints. And if you are interested in completing the assessment, finding out more about the centre, being able to access the Digital Twin Sandbox, the skilled experts and technologists, hardware, software, funding, then please do reach out to Paul Coyle, our Community Engagement Manager. And I'm also happy to take questions, and I'm sure Robert will give you my contact details as well if you need. Thank you very much.
I will indeed. Thank you, Rebecca. I'll make sure they are circulated when we send the email out to everybody. Thank you for that. That was really interesting. I'm going to ask you a question as well, like I did for Checky, so sorry to put you on the spot. But as a real quick one, I noticed that you changed the aspect names in the readiness assessment tool from maturity model. What was the rationale behind that? So
in the ISO 30186 maturity assessment that you have, standard that you've created, the names describe what a twin does. Our readiness assessment describes what an organization needs. So we're answering different questions. So convergence is a property of the twin. Data and connectivity readiness, however, is a question about whether your organization has the infrastructure and governance to achieve said conversion. So the subject shifts from artifact to the organization. And the other reason is accessibility as well. So what we found was that convergence, integrated view, and parameterized, these are meaningful to someone who has read the standard and has worked with digital twins or implemented the digital twins, but can you connect and sync your twin with the asset and also, like, for example, are your people and processes ready across the lifecycle? These land more immediately with the business audience who may never have opened the ISO document. And we engage with both technical engineers as well as then the business leaders as well. So in short, same structure, same 5 dimensions, same 5 levels, but the names reflect who is being assessed. For us, it's the organization, rather than what is being described, so the twin itself. Standard is still the foundation, I want to make that clear, but we take that and assess the practical translation into kind of organizational language, as it were.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's really clear. Thank you, Rebecca. We're going to move on to a next poll, if that's okay. When we were looking at BIM, and Andy spoke a little bit about this earlier, we use a very similar, obviously, stakeholder engagement model to get the feedback that we needed to make sure our solutions would be robust and relevant. And one of the things that came back quite quickly to us, or through that engagement process, was that organizations were being asked for BIM by other organizations and entities within the supply chain. So you can see from the question here, whereas leading up is like, are you being asked to provide or use digital twins at the moment? Because we saw that a lot with BIM, and we're really interested to see if that's being repeated with digital twin. So thank you very much. Sorry, Natalie, did you want to add anything?
That's all right. Well, I think everyone's been voting in the background anyway. So as you can see, yeah, are you currently being asked to develop or use digital twins?
Yes, regularly, 6%.
Yeah, so yeah, we've got yes, regularly, so 5%, 47%, and the winner there is said yes, occasionally or experimentally.
Yeah.
24% have said not yet, but we expect to be, and 23% have said no, not at present.
Okay, that's really interesting, and it's great to see, you know, that is happening within the supply chain. I think though there is a job to do in education to make sure that people that are asking for digital twins understand what it is they're asking for. You know, we're very aware of the fact that the term digital twin isn't necessarily defined at the moment, and so that educational piece needs to be happening as quickly as possible. But that's really interesting. Thank you. So there's a follow-up poll now. So I'll hand over to you for that one, Natalie.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So who is primarily driving the demand for digital twins in your organization? So we have asset owners or operators, customers or end users, regulators, authorities or procurement bodies, or internal strategy or innovation teams. Just a few seconds there. Vote. All right. Okay. Clear winner here is, oh, it's just changed again. No, that's the winner. So we have 47% have said asset owners or operators. No, that's changed to 50%, sorry, asset owners or operators. No one has voted for customers or end users. 13% have said regulators, authorities or procurement bodies, and 38% have said internal strategy or innovation teams.
Okay, fascinating.
Okay.
Really good. Thank you so much for that feedback. As I mentioned before, we're going to go away and we're going to collate that information, and that will help us to look at what any kind of assurance might look at in that field, and who we need to talk to start that educational process. So that's the end of our sort of formal presentation part of the webinar. We now looking to field some questions for you. So I'll ask my colleagues to join me back on screen. We've got some great expertise here, some technical expertise, and great knowledge within, you know, the assurance and certification world as well. Have we received any questions from the audience?
So I can see one from Roland Finch. Rob, I'm happy to answer that.
Yeah, if you can read it out. I'm struggling a little bit to see that.
So
yeah,
Roland asked, is the ISO about accuracy in the process or accuracy in the model? I think the answer is Both, really. So I've seen this question, and I was searching for the term accuracy in the standard in the background. And the standard basically refers to data accuracy, not the model accuracy or process accuracy. Basically, some of the levels of maturity tells you to have specific processes in place to make sure you have accurate data, or to check the data accuracy, which is most covered by the trustworthiness aspect. So for example, level 1 trustworthiness says a digital twin provides limited verification processes to ensure data accuracy. Even at level 1, you're looking at some form of data accuracy process in place. And at capability aspect, level 5, we are also looking at, does the digital twin continuously evaluate its own performance and accuracy to align with the real world conditions? So it doesn't, again, tell you what accuracy means, but it tells you need to have some kind of system in place to ensure the accuracy is checked for, I assume, for your own purposes in that specific digital twin implementation.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jackie. I think I've managed to access the questions now, so apologies for that. Just learning the system. There's a question here about the Kitemark certification. So we talked a little bit right at the beginning about aspiration or intent to look at a Kitemark certification process or program against this standard, which might include additional requirements as we gather that sort of feedback. One of the questions we see here is how can BSI make sure that a Kitemark certification scheme remains relevant with a largely immature, let's call it immature, sector like digital twins, where there are, as we've seen, new standards that are actually just under development now. So I'm going to ask, is Gary online? We have Gary with us still?
Yes, Rob. Hi there.
Put you on the spot there. So Gary,
would you just mind quickly repeating the question, please?
Yeah, sure. And then I'll ask you to introduce yourself so people know who you are. So, like, how do we ensure that that if we create a Kitemark scheme against this standard, that it remains relevant and current as things are evolving quite quickly in the digital twin world?
Yes, thanks. And hi everyone. My name is Gary Patterson. So I manage BSI's certification team for digital construction. Bit of just in the background. So yes, digital twin is relatively new still. One of the key standards and areas of BSI that I've worked on is BIM, and of course that's now, at least from a certification point of view, 10 years old now. So we've gone through this process of an emerging and maturing market. So it's down. So BSI, we can provide adequate guidance through standards, and we can provide certification that kind of gives recognition and sets a key kind of benchmark for organisations that are applying the standards. But ultimately, it's up to the industry to take up those new tools and standards and see the benefits from it. Rarely do you get organisations that are adopting a new way of working just for a certification sake, just for a box ticking sake. You guys have to see the benefits in the adoption and the subject matter. So ultimately, if you see the value from a business point of view and from a commercial point of view in adopting the principles of digital twins, BSI are here to help you all the way and to support you on that journey. So it's a kind of a two-way support BSI can offer, but we kind of rely on industry to kind of really embrace it as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gary. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
No, that's fine.
I'm getting some form for doing that today. Rebecca, I've got a question for you. So it's coming said, how do you consider that the application of the readiness assessment will support the goal to reduce the cost of implementation of a digital twin by half?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We anticipate, yeah, knowledgeable audiences and people who are listening too. So these I believe that it's about avoiding waste of investment. So by going through the standard and by going through the assessment, we kind of prevent organizations potentially committing kind of hardware and development time and integration effort to areas where they're not ready for. So where cost overruns in digital twin programs, it's the accumulation of that wasted effort. And we think we can address that in two different ways. So one would be that going through the readiness assessment, we can surface the gaps before procurement decisions are made. So if an organization scores, say, for example, a level 1 in the data and connectivity, we don't believe they should be progressing the other levels, such as buying simulation tooling yet, for example. It's like, let's address, if your goal is to get to a digital twin where you need to buy synchronous and bidirectional data flow, then let's look at your data and connectivity. And kind of the assessment stops them making the mistake of procuring more and more kind of high-level equipment, or rather, I suppose, depending what angle you're coming at, it can be low-level equipment, in areas where they don't need that yet. They need to focus on the higher priority areas. And it tells us where we can target our support. So that the help provided, for example, is more specific than generic. It makes our time more efficient and reduces the time the organization spends finding out the hard way what they're missing. We also have access to, because we have financial levers as well, we have access to funds that can help you accelerate your development. We offer TAP, which is a technology access program, where we have in-house procured software that we believe to be industry standard and useful for the development of digital twins through our own expertise, but also then from feedback from companies that we've worked with. So we have in-house software that you can try before you buy. Likewise, hardware, so the likes of, for example, SpeedGoat, other hardware does exist too, where you can kind of prototype hardware in the loop and test out we have the sandbox, and we have a partnership with the Centre for Modelling and Simulation, CFMS. So we have connections to different groups, bodies, and we have access to software and hardware where you can trial your thoughts. And that all comes from going through the assessment, us understanding where your gaps are, and developing a roadmap and targeted support for you guys. So that's how it's the implementation part.
Brilliant, thank you, Rebecca. And as she mentioned earlier, if any of you have got any follow-up questions, you can address them to her colleague or to herself at will. So, Paul.
The Paul Coyle is the community engagement manager, and because we're building the community hub, there's quite an active community there. People who are asking questions, providing answers, and it's not just the Digital Twin Centre who are engaged in answering the questions. There are communal common questions that are and problems that have arisen that are being answered in this community hub. So this is the guy that I direct you to participate in this community and then get access to the right people for business development and so on. Apologies.
That's all right. Thank you, Rebecca. And we, as I said, we'll be sending the slides on to you within the next 48 hours. So you'll have Paul's contact details within that final slide from Rebecca. This is an interesting question. So this one seems to be directed to the audience rather than our panel here, but I'm going to read it out anyway because I think it's really relevant. It says, what? ? Nobody is being driven by customers. Why is anybody doing it? I think that's a really interesting question. So we have our own thoughts on that within BSI, and I'm sure Rebecca does as well. But I'd be really interested if you have a response to that, if you drop it into the question box as well. How are we doing for time? We're down to 5 minutes. So do we have time for one more question? Does anyone on the panel have a question for anyone else on the panel?
Rob, I see a question from Ahmed Elmani.
Yeah, go for it.
Happy to go for it. He's asking, will BSI standards define specific digital twin nonconformities, clauses, or terms which facilitate official audits? And he followed up by for example, conformities of project digital twin versus an organizational digital twin. Now, so I can see from the way this question is structured, it is referencing the concepts introduced in the new building information modeling digital twins applied to build environment standard, which introduced this new concepts and definition about asset digital twins and project digital twins. Thing is, where we are right now, we don't have a digital twin certification scheme on which we can raise any non-conformities, right? What we're looking at, the standards that are out there are, apart from the manufacturing specific ones, which we are not focusing on at the moment. This is specifically for built environment focus anyway, this question. They are introducing just terms and definitions, right? There is really not a huge amount there to build a assessment scheme, let alone raise any non-conformities. So far, the one we're focusing on today is a maturity assessment, which you wouldn't, I don't think, raise non-conformities in a maturity assessment. Instead, you would say, this is the level you achieved. So it would be more of a verification kind of activity.
Yeah.
However,
Sorry, carry on.
When the follow-up standards that I listed are coming down the line about like the architecture, about how the data interchange should be between the twin and the sensors and all that, then maybe we can start looking into the area of what are the shall requirements that can be against which a non-conformity can be raised. But
yeah,
we are not there yet. It's too early for this kind of discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great, because it kind of goes back to what you were saying before, Checky, about this standard not being an all or nothing. It's not a pass or fail. It's a maturity assessment based on that matrix. So thank you. Good question. We're near the end, so we do have one more poll we'd just like to run. So Natalie, I'll hand over to you, please.
Yeah, of course, Rob. Okay, so if a digital twin Kitemark existed today, how likely would you be to explore certification? So we've got very likely, near term, likely once established, unlikely, watching brief, or not relevant for us. So just a few seconds there to cast your votes. Okay, so we have 36% have said very likely, near term. 54% have said likely once established, 15% have said unlikely, watching brief, and no one has said not relevant for us.
That's really good. Thank you so much, everybody, for your participation in that, and for everything today. It's been really educational for us. I hope it has been for you as well. I want to say a big thank you to Andy, Rebecca, and Checky for your excellent presentations. But really, most importantly, thank you for you today for attending, sharing your views with us on this important topic, which we will then take to help us to shape our thoughts moving forward. Once you leave the webinar, you will receive a short survey on your experience today, and we're really grateful if you could take a few minutes to complete this with your feedback, and then you'll receive that follow-up email within the next 48 hours with a link, so you can look at the recording or share the recording, and you also have access to the slides. So on behalf of BSI, thank you, and UK Centre for Digital Twins, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.